Imagine a man who couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't even lift a finger. Yet that very man changed the way we understand black holes, time, and the entire universe. This is the story of Stephen Hawking, not just a physicist, but a global symbol of resilience, intellect, and the human spirit. Behind his robotic voice and wheelchair, behind the fame and best-selling books, was a man who faced loneliness, failure, broken love, and unimaginable physical decline, but never gave up. Stephen was born in Oxford in 1942 on the exact 300th anniversary of Galileo's death. His parents were scholars, yet his upbringing was anything but ordinary. Dinners at the Hawking household, silent, everyone read books, no TV, no small talk, just ideas. At school, he was average or worse. I was never near the top of the class. My handwriting was poor, my notebooks a mess, Hawking later recalled, but classmates gave him the nickname Einstein, half mocking, half admiring, as if sensing something brewing under the quiet surface. At just 17, Hawking entered Oxford. He was younger than most students, shy and bored. The lectures were too easy. I barely studied, maybe 1 hour a day. To make friends, he joined the rowing club not as a rower, but as a coxswain, small, light, and with surprising command. Stephen found a role. He preferred conversations about stars and time over parties and grades. At his final exams, his results were on the edge between first and second class honors. The committee asked, "What will you do if we give you a first?" "I'll go to Cambridge, and if not, I'll stay here." They smiled and gave him a first. Shortly after starting at Cambridge, Stephen noticed his body was failing. He fell, tripped, dropped things. His hands felt clumsy, his voice slurred after multiple tests. The doctors told him amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. You will gradually lose control over all muscles. You may not live beyond 2 years, 21 years old. With an expiration date, Stephen collapsed emotionally. He stopped talking to friends, stopped eating, lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Then he met Jane Wilde, a bright, confident student of language. She loved him, not his illness, him. "I'm not marrying the disease, I'm marrying the man." And from that moment on, Stephen had a reason to fight. He returned to his research. As his limbs failed him, his imagination grew stronger. "Even though I cannot move, my mind roams freely across the cosmos." He began calculating the nature of time, space, and black holes purely through theoretical physics. No labs, no experiments, just sheer thought and math. In 1974, he shook the scientific world. Black holes aren't fully black. They emit energy, they can die. This discovery, later called Hawking radiation, redefined physics. A man who could no longer lift a pen had redrawn the edges of the known universe. In 1985, Stephen contracted a severe case of pneumonia. Doctors performed a tracheotomy to save his life, but it cost him his voice forever. Now, he couldn't talk, couldn't type, couldn't write, but he adapted using a device initially controlled by his finger, and later by a cheek muscle. Hawking composed texts letter by letter, and with that system, he wrote his greatest mainstream masterpiece, A Brief History of Time, 1988, explaining the universe to ordinary readers. It sold over 10 million copies in 35 languages. I may not speak, but I have something to say to the world. Stephen's first wife, Jane, had carried the weight of 2 lifetimes. She raised their children, managed the house, coordinated nurses, and cared for her increasingly fragile husband. "I was no longer a wife. I was a ghost," she once said. They eventually divorced after 25 years. Stephen later married his nurse, Elaine, but this second marriage too was fraught with controversy. Accusations of abuse, control, and silence. Brilliant as he was, Hawking was not immune to human flaws. He was not the perfect husband, but he never pretended to be perfect. In 2009, Stephen hosted a party. Champagne, balloons, motives. He waited in a Cambridge hall, alone, but no one showed up, because he hadn't sent the invitations until after the party. If time travel is possible, someone from the future might come. I wanted to test it. No one came. Was it failure, or was it genius humor? Stephen turned curiosity into an event. Even silence had meaning. Despite his revolutionary ideas, Hawking never won a Nobel Prize because his theories, like Hawking radiation, haven't yet been observed experimentally, but he earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama, the Copley Medal, dozens of honorary degrees. More importantly, he brought science to the public, to the dinner table, the classroom, the imagination. In his final years, Stephen Hawking became more than a scientist. He became a prophet of our future. He issued warnings not about distant stars, but about our very survival as a species, that artificial intelligence, if left unchecked, could surpass our ability to control it, making decisions beyond human ethics or understanding. That climate change was not a theory, but a rapidly unfolding catastrophe, one that could render Earth uninhabitable, and that if humanity hoped to endure, we would have to look beyond Earth to other planets, other systems, as a way to secure our legacy at the time. Some critics called him alarmist, too dramatic, too pessimistic. But today, with rising sea levels, wildfires, AI systems, writing code and mimicking voices, his words feel less like warnings and more like instructions we fail to follow. The biggest danger is not machines that think like humans, but humans who think like machines. He feared we'd lose our empathy before we lost our planet, that we'd trade curiosity for convenience, wisdom for data, and wonder for profit. Yet, even as he warned us, Hawking never gave up on hope. He believed in science, in humanity, the power of imagination. He dreamed of a future where children would grow up on Mars, look at Earth through telescopes, and read about him in schoolbooks, not as a man in a wheelchair, but as the mind that dared to break gravity's grip on our destiny. Stephen Hawking passed away in 2018, aged 76, 55 years after doctors told him he'd be dead in 2. He spent his life reminding us that, however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. His body stayed still, but his spirit traveled beyond galaxies. He did not walk, but he led humanity forward. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect, don't let it stop here. Like, share, subscribe, and remember, some people are born to dream. Others, like Hawking, are born to turn dreams into reality.